We're wrapping up a month of travel in Athens, Greece, and we have some thoughts about it.
Welcome back to Find Gina Marie, where we share our journey as full-time travelers and the people we meet along the way.
If you're new here, I'm Judy.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're here at the historic Parthenon Stadium, which is the site of the first modern Olympics in 1896.
And it's one of the only stadiums that's all marble. It's also the end point for the marathon.
If you're a runner, you probably already know this. 26.2 mile marathon came to that number because it's exactly the distance from Marathon, Greece to the Parthenon Stadium. There's a whole history behind it, but I'll put a link to more information below.
We're not going to go through the whole audio guide right here?
We could.
We'll skip that for you. We're really looking forward to visiting Greece. We love antiquities, we love history, and this place is full of history. We're a little concerned or a little unsure of how it's going to be in the off-season.
It will be a different experience than the people who've come during the off-season and have blinding sun and heat and lie around on the beach. But does this meet our expectations?
Well, let's just say it's January and we're in long sleeve shirts and we're not uncomfortable.
So the primary reason that we came to Athens was for ruins.
There's ruins everywhere. In fact, getting off the train and the subway, we started walking out of the station, and inside the station were ruins. You just stood there and enjoyed that because there's so many centuries of history. You dig down and you find history. It's similar to Rome, where layers and layers of history are here.
Right. In fact, there are places that history is just literally lying on the side of a temple because they've got no place to store all of these ancient stones.
So they have so many stones, they don't know where they actually go. They haven't had the time to catalog and try to figure out how to put this building back together. And right now, our view from where we're sitting is the Acropolis on the Parthenon. So you can't beat that, sitting in an ancient site with a more modern stadium, looking at some incredible history. That's the thing that they talked about here, is when we say ancient in the US, we're talking 1500s, 1400s. When they say ancient here, they're talking BC. They're not talking AD.
In fact, this is considered the modern stadium, but 1896 is still old. So we were up on Acropolis Hill and saw all of the sites and ruins that are there. And there are some things that have replicas there instead of the original antiquity because it's often a museum, which in fact there are some ancient ruins that are in the British Museum instead of in the Greek Museum next to the Acropolis.
The tour guide gave us some pretty cool information about all that. In fact, the story of the actual ambassador that took a lot of the stuff when the Greek government wasn't in control is a fascinating story, and we'll put links to all that below.
There was plenty of authentic ruins to see in the Parthenon and just everywhere. It's definitely lived up to its hype.
There's just so much up there, it's not just one thing.
We also took a day trip to Meteora, and there are a bunch of monasteries there. In fact, at one point there were 24 of them. It's now reduced to 6 active monasteries. And we also saw some hermit monk caves, which were absolutely fascinating. It was a quick trip. We didn't have time to spend a lot of time exploring things. We went to 2 monasteries, but the sites were absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and it's in central Greece, so we took quite a lengthy train ride over there, but it was comfortable, and it's the mountains of Greece there. So you are actually looking at some pretty old natural formations and these things that the monks did to live in these small spaces, and how they built these monasteries is a fascinating story.
Right, that all happened in the 15th century. So while maybe not ancient, it's very old.
For most of the trip, it was really lovely weather. In fact, the guide was thrilled that we had good weather for visiting the first couple monasteries. And then the rain hit later in the day, and then it really came down with even some hail. So that was our first real hit of heavy rain in Greece. But, it still was a beautiful trip and well worth it.
I definitely think that you could stay an extra day and see more of the monasteries. They're all very unique and different, but if you could only make it a day trip, it's still worthwhile.
So in addition to just the big ruins that you see and get advertised, A lot of what's around Athens are agoras, which are the meeting places, the open spaces. Think of agoraphobia, where open spaces and fear of too many people collecting together. That's what the name came from. I feel like I'm in the movie, the Greek movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Right.
I'm giving the history here.
You know, the root of the word miller is a Greek word.
But these agoras have ruins in them. Almost every one of them has a lot of ruins. Amazingly, what seems to be the ruler of the agoras are the cats. If you like cats, you need to visit Athens. You'll have your fill of cats.
And you don't even have to go to the agoras to see them.
No.
There have been cats everywhere.
So Greek is not an easy language if you're not used to the Greek alphabet. It immediately kind of puts you off. So we were taught some of the core phrases from the tour guide. Immediately fell out of my head. I couldn't remember. Judy made a note of it, but honestly, so many people here speak English, it wasn't really a problem. And when there was a language problem, they knew enough to hand you a menu in English or something to help you out. Or, the standard thing we do in countries, which is just hand gestures.
It's always a good idea to learn a few words in the language of the country that you're visiting, but people here have been very friendly and understanding as well.
One of the best things about Athens is that you can eat pretty cheaply. If you want to get a pita gyro, it's like €3. Euros. It's price and thing. Anyway, they're really good. They have fries in them, which I didn't think I knew that before we started eating here. And I think the first time we actually ordered gyros or souvlaki, we ordered them not in a pita, and they came in these big trays, and that was about €10, so a little bit more expensive.
So if you're wondering what the difference is between a gyro and a souvlaki are chunks of meat on a stick, and
the gyro meat is basically lots of stacked meat on a big pole that is put into a rotisserie vertically, and then they just shave it as it gets crispy on the outside, so you get a nice juicy and crispy feel to the gyros, and frankly I like that even better than
souvlaki.
Souvlaki.
And they come typically in lamb, pork, and chicken. We have also seen a ton of pancakes.
There are two types of pancakes. They're savory and they're sweet. And when they say savory or sweet, they mean seriously one direction or the other. The savory ones will have slices of meat and cheese in between the pancakes.
And an egg on top.
And an egg on top. And then the sweet ones are significantly different. What did you have the one time?
I had a peanut butter and fresh berries over the top. The pancakes themselves weren't actually very good, but I did miss peanut butter. It's been a while. We'll also say, because I saw this show up on Reddit the other day, a Greek salad, they show as a Greek salad. They just don't call it a salad. They actually call it Greek. They also sometimes will have differentiators like a Mediterranean salad or their house salad that has a specific name. That's a Greek salad with their own twist. If you're vegan or a vegetarian, there are lots and lots and lots of options. So this is a great place to visit or stay. One of the interesting desserts that we also tried is something called ice roll.
Yeah, I'm not usually the big ice cream person because dairy doesn't always affect me the best way, but in Europe it tends to be better for me, so I went ahead and got my own ice roll, and I thought it was pretty impressive. I mean, when they spread this out on this slab, it is freezing immediately, and when they put your toppings on, they mix it all together, and watching them shave it off was just a little art form, and then they decorated it nicely in the container. It looked appetizing to me, and I'm not usually the person going, oh, I gotta have ice cream. And one of the things that they have a lot around here are rooftop bars, and I highly recommend that you at least visit one or two of them because they do serve you well in them, and you do have beautiful views.
In fact, you can go there for coffee, drinks, and meals as well. It's a day-long place to enjoy food and incredible views.
One thing that we were trying to get from day one that took us a long time to get were their desserts that look like little donut holes. They're called loukoumades. They're denser than donut holes that you would get at something like Dunkin' Donuts. And they are covered with honey and powdered sugar usually too. And they served, I don't know, was it like a dozen or 15
Maybe
of them?
more, 15.
And I ate most of them, and I probably shouldn't have.
It should come as no surprise that with all of the beauty everywhere around us here in Athens, that there is a high amount of street art everywhere.
There's also a lot of street musicians, and beautiful as you're just walking through the shop areas. So you go from a traditional Greek music to 60s band to the next iteration of whatever music's coming down the line.
And for sure, the music is everywhere. So when you are in places like the Acropolis and various sites, you're hearing music somewhere that just adds another element of beauty to the surroundings.
The tipping culture in Greece is a little bit different than some other countries, and it's convention to tip them about 10% at restaurants.
I know it's a little bit controversial because technically they are paid and shouldn't require tips, but the economy here is not great and their wages are not high. So even though they're not below standard wages, they're still low wages. So tip if you can, and also don't forget to tip your tour guides as well.
We had no problem getting from the airport to our Airbnb. The subway system is decent and has some strict hours for when things run, so you know what's going on. We were able to walk around the city easily, except for our e-bike tour. We didn't see a lot of bicycles around the city.
There are scattered one or two, but really it's not a biking city.
But there were a lot of motorized bikes. Motorcycles and scooters were abundant in Athens.
Yes, everywhere.
Cars and trucks are pretty polite in the streets. There are crosswalks. There are green and red people signals that say, you know, you can go or you can't go. And for the most part, they are paying attention to those and they are stopping for you.
We were somewhere and there was an older man on the street and walking very slowly. There was a car right behind him, just very patient, didn't beep. I've been to other cities where that would not have happened.
And that was a taxi, and you know they're always in a hurry to get somewhere. Very nice to see. So our area was right across from a big recycling bin section and garbage bin section, and it was amazing how often those things were emptied and cleaned up, and you would see shops constantly sweeping their front areas. Overnight, we thought it was raining, but we got out really early one morning to go for a walk. Turns out there's people out there with the trucks washing the streets, scrubbing them, keeping things clean. A very lovely city, very well kept, and easy to get around.
Yes, and a ton of garbage cans everywhere, and it's clear that they are being emptied on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, nothing to complain about cleanliness.
So you know, on this channel, we put a very high priority on making connections. And we were delighted that on our first night here, we ran into two fellow travelers, Nick and Lisa. It was great to meet them. Nick is Greek, and they're here for 6 months. We'll put a link in the description below.
They're on Instagram, and that link will take you to their site where you can see all their travels and the way they've taken a van around the different countries. Something we wouldn't be doing, but we were thrilled to hear about their stories.
If you've stayed with us this far, please give us a like and consider subscribing. We are super excited to bring you our next episode, which is going to be everything that we pack as full-time travelers.
And if you want to find out more about our channel, check out findginamarie.com. Got Judy's journal there where she talks about her adventures every day.
Until next time.
Until next time.
We are wrapping up a year.
What?
I don't know.